Hello, thanks for watching. This is Kelly with DonorSnap, and today I'm going to go through 8 best practices for your nonprofit email marketing. To get started, I first want to talk about why email. According to Nonprofit Marketing Guide, email is now the most important communication channel for nonprofits. Unfortunately, there's been minimal email list management or adhering to best practices. So we put this video together in hopes to provide you with a little inspiration. If you're already using email, maybe there's some tips in here that you didn't know about, and really just ways to maximize your email outreach. And last, why email is so important is that it's effective, it's affordable, and it's easy to measure. So we're all familiar with running print campaigns. They're great for our annual appeals with the little remittance envelopes, but we know that it's expensive and it's time consuming, and it's not always the easiest to measure. So while I don't think email is going to replace direct mail, it is a great supplement to your outreach. So best practice number 1 is to tend to your mailing lists. And when all of your data lives in DonorSnap, you can easily manage your lists, you can segment them, and you can keep them nice and organized. So some best practices to keep your mailing lists neat and tidy are to only contact the people who have subscribed to your mailing list. And we all know that nonprofits are about building relationships and building trust. So you don't want to take advantage of the fact that someone's given you their email address. So one way to look at this is if you have multiple forms on your website for collecting information, you want to make sure that you're only contacting the people for the things they signed up for. So if someone signed up for your newsletter, just send them their newsletter to start. If they sign up for volunteer opportunities, just send them volunteer opportunities. And DonorSnap has responsive forms, so you can build lots of different forms on your website and collect information in a way that it will segment the lists for you. So that's just something to keep top of mind when managing your lists. Another thing is to keep your email lists clean. So when you have a lot of bad emails in your list and they bounce back when you send a big campaign, that's going to affect your email send score. And when you have a bad email send score, it's going to start sending your campaigns to junk folders. So you want to make sure all of the emails that you have are viable and that you have permission to be emailing them. And then last is to make a good first impression on new subscribers. So chances are providing their email is going to be one of the first steps a new donor takes. So you want to think this out, be very thoughtful, and think maybe about a welcome email series. You don't want to just start bombarding them with information. It would not leave a good first impression if you start asking them for money either. So just understanding the value of an email and how to nurture it over time. Best practice number 2 is to use a winning subject line. And I like to think of subject lines as making a great first impression. So some tips to keep your subject lines interesting and affecting open rates would be to create a sense of urgency. And this is obviously very easy for a nonprofit because your mission in itself is probably a state of urgency. So letting the reader know why opening that email is going to make a difference could be a very effective email subject line. Another thing is to keep it short and concise. Email subject lines that have 50 characters or less tend to have higher open rates. And last, tell them what's inside. So you want to be sending relevant messages to people and they want to know what they're getting. So again, if they're volunteer opportunities, say that in the subject line so the person who signed up for them knows what they're getting. Best practice number 3 is to measure and test. And the great thing about email is that we're going to get all of that data right into DonorSnap or whatever email system that you're using. So every organization is different. Which is why it's really important to measure and test. There's standards in place, but what works for you might not work for another organization. So over time, using the data in DonorSnap, start to measure and test what campaigns perform better than others, and then adjust elements within your email to get the most impactful results. So some things to measure and test could be like email subject lines, the design of the email, and what kind of creative you use in there. So the difference between using maybe images from people in your nonprofit as opposed to just maybe images of scenery might make a big difference. Frequency of emails. You obviously do not want to be bombarding people, but they do like to hear from you on a regular basis. So experiment with that, test that. And last, time of day sent. You can do lots of research online about when emails are most likely to be open. So that could be another element of your email outreach that you test. Best practice number 4 is to add UTM tags to your campaign. And these are really cool things. It's a free feature in Google. I'm gonna go into a little bit more in depth with it. I don't want it to be overwhelming, but basically if you have Google Analytics set up on your website, which will show you your website traffic, it'll show you what people are doing on your website. You can use UTM tags in tandem with this to get a little bit more detailed information. And the way that they work is they tag on a little snippet of code onto the end of your links, and then it tracks it. So when you log into analytics, you can see what campaign maybe resulted in a lot of traffic and donations, or maybe what source. So if you're using DonorSnap for your email, etc. So the way you set this up, and I'll provide a link below, is to just go to Google's UTM Builder. You start off with the destination URL. So say I'm just going to the homepage in this example. And then the campaign source is what system you're using. So I'm assuming this nonprofit is using the DonorSnap mass email tool. If you were using Constant Contact, you would put campaign source as Constant Contact. And then medium is email. So email, the medium is a little bit more of a broader term. And then the campaign name is obviously the most specific. So we're gonna assume this traffic came from the welcome email. And once you have this set up and put it in your email, you'll be able to see but you could filter by any of these parameters and see how well your email campaign performed. So just a nice thing to add. You don't have to do it, but it is nice to see that level of detail if you're interested. Number 5 is to know your metrics. And the last 2 best practices wouldn't be very useful if you didn't know your metrics. And another important thing to know is the benchmarks. So common email metrics, these all are available in DonorSnap, are open rate, click rate, bounce rate, unsubscribe rate, and spam reported. And I got these benchmarks from benchmarkemail.com. It is gonna vary based on what sector you're in. So you might wanna look up more specifically if you're an animal welfare organization or arts organization. Just Google email metric benchmarks and then your sector, and that will give you a little bit more detail. But these are really great because they will help you see how well your campaigns are performing when you first start, and then you can measure up against these and then know whether or not you need to work on improving certain aspects. So if you are sending out an email and your open rate is 15%, you might want to look at your subject lines. You might want to look at your lists and the viability of your list, because obviously there's a problem there if you're having such a low open rate. So knowing your metrics and then knowing the benchmarks are really helpful when you're getting started. Best practice number 6 is to have a clear call to action in your email. Readers want to know what the next step is after they read your email. So including a call to action is a great way to get them to take an action. You wouldn't just send an email with no particular goal. So think about the goal of your email, and this will help you formulate the calls to action. Some examples are save a life, donate now, sign the petition, volunteer today, or join the challenge. You can obviously get more creative with these depending on your specific organization. You definitely want to have them be clear, concise, compelling, and provoke some sort of action. Best practice number 7 is to always link to your website. So although your email is going to have a lot of great information in it, the ultimate goal is to get the user to end up on your website. For example, if you have a newsletter and you have a lot of different articles on your blog that you're sharing, just summarize the blog posts with an image and then link the reader to your website. The more time users spend on your website, the more likely they are going to learn about your organization, and then ultimately the more likely they are to donate. Best practice number 8 is to use automation. Automation sends emails based on a specific action a user takes in your database. So you can set these up using DonorSnap's automated task manager. And some common emails that we see nonprofits use are a new user welcome series, a happy birthday message, or lapsed donor campaigns. So the way these work is, for example, with the new user series, you'll tell DonorSnap to start sending the emails a day after a new user is added to your database. You can have as many emails as you want in these campaigns, and you can space them out based on specific dates. The happy birthday message is another way you can get a little more personal with your donors. You could send out an email a week before someone's birthday asking them if they want to host a birthday fundraiser. and then send a message on their actual birthday, just wishing them a nice day. And then another great one is a lapsed donor campaign. So you could set these emails to trigger a month after a missed donation, asking the donor to give again. So automation is really great because it saves you time, it allows you to get a little bit more personal, and it hopefully will help you raise a little bit more money. So that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about DonorSnap, you can visit donorsnap.com. We have daily free live demos if you want to learn more about our product. And if you are already using DonorSnap, thank you so much for being a customer, and we look forward to making more of these videos for you soon. Thanks so much.